We Get Outdoors Nation, welcome to this expert guest interview. Today we're going to get to know a friend of mine, somebody who I've known for over 30 years, a guy who is a bushcraft survival and sort of Stone Age expert who runs a wilderness business called Wilderness Pioneers, where he takes people out and teaches them how to live, survive and thrive in the outdoors. Manse has done everything in his time, from working in the Arctic Circle, working all over the world, guiding and teaching thousands of others just these things. So Manse, welcome to the podcast. Whereabouts do we find you today?
It's my birth home, you know. I was born here. And although I've lived in other places, I just get drawn back. I love it. It's a beautiful city, you know. If people haven't been here, the Dreaming Spires, they're just worth going and having a look at. Just watch out for the tourists.
Oh, the tourists and the students on bicycles. That's Oxford for you.
Yeah. Students with no, sorry, just about to swear there, go off on one. No common sense. You know, they are the most intelligent people on this planet come here. But common sense, my God, they have none, do they? You just want to go slap them and go, wake up.
Yeah, Oxford's not a city to have a brand new car, because it will quite quickly have like the brake lever marks down the side of the car.
Yeah, totally. You know, I don't drive into town anymore. I park my car on the outskirts of Oxford and just walk in 2 or 3 miles. And yeah, it's all right. It's still a beautiful city. Still love it. But yeah, as with anything good, there are bad points. And tourists and students are the bad points of Oxford, unfortunately.
That's it. So what does the world find you doing today? We've just spoken about in the introduction that you've gone from a sort of education, at-risk young people, into outdoorsman, bushcraft, search and rescue. What does that really look like for you for work these days?
Well, I was a teacher for years, as you're aware. I did that for about 12 years. And at the same time, I was teaching bushcraft just as a hobby, really, and sharing the skills I developed over time. And as you rightly said, I was working with looked after children, but it come to a point where management pretty much drove me out. Well, no. The way the system was managed drove me out rather than being driven out by management and the incompetencies. So I decided to go off and set up my own business, which I do, called Wilderness Pioneers. And I just started teaching bushcraft because I just thought life's too short. And actually, it was my partner who turned around to me one day. I'd come back after a really stressful day at school. I was raging. And she said, look, you're not the person I met. You've changed totally. And I'd become a really angry individual. I'd become frustrated with the whole thing. And that hit home hard. It was sort of, actually, here's someone I really care about who's just saying, I'm not the same person. I had a rethink, and a week later I handed my notice in and went, I'm gone. I'm not doing this anymore. It was a total shock. And I had to go through my 3-month severance period, for a better word. But my God, it was the longest 3 months ever. And yeah, set up my business, and I just went in on the basis of just teaching young people bushcraft skills again, because they're the next generation. It was about trying to re-enthuse them about the outdoors and the wilderness. And I worked on the basis that as long as it paid for my rent and my food, I was happy. And I was, you know, I'm nowhere near earning the same, well, I wasn't at that point earning the same sort of level of money I was getting as a teacher. But I was happy. I didn't have that stress anymore. And yeah, and from there it's just branched off into directions I would never have dreamed about.
Oh, I can't wait to hear more about those. But I have a burning question to talk about the elephant in the room. Now, I've met your parents and your sister many years ago, and I would describe your family as a traditional Indian family. Would that be close to the mark?
What traditional Muslim family?
Muslim family. Sorry, I'll get and so doctor, lawyer, accountant, something like that would seem to fit, and in the stereotype of that world, I guess. How did you have that conversation that I'm not going to do any of that stuff, Mum and Dad, and whatever your aspirations are for me, I'm going to go and light fires and build shelters with people in the woods?
Oh, Jesus. Yeah, that's going back a few years. Um, Basically, I pushed back. I really pushed back. Around that sort of time, um, we're talking probably when I was, what, 15, 16 at that time when we roughly met, didn't we?
Hmm.
Actually, maybe I was a little bit younger. But it was around that sort of time where they wanted to get me married off the arranged marriage. I was a good Muslim boy at that time, whatever they said, it was correct. I didn't know any better. But it come to that real head-on conflict where they said, time to get married. And it was sort of, what the, and again, no, I'll put it, what the fuck? That
Yeah.
is exactly what went through my mind is, really? And you know me, I was born in the UK. I am British through and through,
Hmm.
and although there's that overlap of cultures, it was that one thing was just totally unacceptable. I couldn't fathom living or spending the rest of my life with someone I'd never met before, who I knew nothing about except maybe seen a picture. So, my God, the conflict that went on in that house it was the worst it's ever been. It was really bad. It got to the point where I thought, enough, I can't get through to them. So I ran away. And survival was in at that time. And I was only just on the outskirts of it, thinking, what is this thing? It's about going out into the bush and lighting fires and having a whale of a time. And I used to you remember by Donny Bridge, there was the nature reserve just down Meadow Lane.
Hmm.
What's it called? Aston's Eels.
Hmm.
And I used to go there and light fires, or the Sea Scout hut behind the outdoor centre. And, I used to scrounge around there and light little fires and make little traps, and thought, okay, that's what I'm doing. I'm off to the woods. I am not putting up with this. So I went off to the woods. I had my little canvas haversack and a blanket. I stole my dad's penknife, and I had a box of matches and a little tobacco tin that I was going to light my fire in and cook in. So I ran off to Bagley Woods, as you know,
Yep.
and I spent the most miserable night there. I kid you not. It was pissing down with rain. It was dark. I was huddled up, couldn't get a fire going. And it was the first real night I'd spent outdoors. And there were these sounds going off all around me. And I was shitting a brick, to put it bluntly. I was so petrified. I didn't know what the hell was going on. It was me huddled under this blanket, soaked. Anyway, I got through the night and went back home the next day, tail between my legs, but the point had been made. And yeah, they accepted that I wasn't going to accept that way, but the pressure eased off quite tremendously, and over time they finally accepted that I was the black sheep of the family and I wasn't going to go down that route. And then, when I went back home the next day, at that time I promised to myself I would never, ever, ever be in that situation again. So I started borrowing books long term from the library, and I still have some of those books. In fact,
That's very long term.
very long time. I would hate to see what the fine is on them. Yeah, and I just started teaching myself, and that's it. They just sparked my interest, and I carried on going.
So you've still got a copy of the SAS Survival Handbook, Lofty Wiseman, kicking around somewhere. You must have.
It wasn't out at that time. It was
Ah.
not out at that time. No, Lofty came out later. Um, I could probably run downstairs and grab it and tell you what the title is, but then it'll be evidence on camera, and then Oxford City Council would chase me. No, I won't. So yeah, that's the wilderness got me out of that conflict pretty much, but it also helped me draw a line to move forward with what I loved.
Mm.
Um, and education wise, going back to your question, yeah, they wanted me to be a doctor. There is no doubt about it. And I had the grades when I left school. I had 2 A's and a B through my A levels, and I could have done it, but that rebellious streak had kicked in by that time, and I just decided no, I didn't. I'd had enough of education. I'd had enough of being forced forward in a direction I didn't like. So yeah, I just knocked it on the head and went off and worked for a few years and just carried on earning my interests and getting better and better.
How do you manage that? Like, I was trying to find the way of putting this and being relatively politically correct, but I'm probably going to fail.
What's that?
How do you balance with the upbringing of Muslim? Because I describe you as more English than English people often. Like, if I cut your left arm off, the Union Jack would be tattooed through the middle of the flesh. Like, that's how I always have known you. And so how does that balance? Would you still think you're Muslim? Are you not? Do you do pick and choose atheism? What's the route, or is there no route?
I questioned everything. Once that rebellious streak kicked in, I questioned everything about the culture, the background. I questioned all religion. I questioned all beliefs. And the first stages for me was actually questioning what Islam was all about, because up to that point, I blindly accepted it. Your parents had told you this was the path that you were on, is the correct path. And, you know, parents are on a pedestal. You always look up to them and you will always try to appease them or at least not hurt them. So, yeah, I used to accept blindly. And then when this whole the marriage thing come in, it just didn't sit right. And I started looking into what the religion actually said. And what I learned from looking more into Islam was that there's some beautiful aspects to it. The whole aspect of looking out for each other, giving charity, being kind, being helpful, considerate, going out, educating yourself. You know, there's so many beautiful aspects to it. But what I also realized that what had happened in Islam was that you had cultural influences begin to come in. And the cultural influences started having a major impact on what Islam was. And then you started having variations within Islam, the Sunnis, the Shiites, etc., very much like what you have in Christianity with the Roman Catholics and Church of England and all the rest. So when I looked into Islam at that time, I started looking at other religions at the same time, because always there was that thing in the back of my mind which had been told by my parents that Islam was the only religion to follow. You know? So I wanted to know what was wrong with the others. So I started looking into those. I looked into Christianity, I looked into Judaism, I read the Bible, I read the Torah, looked into Sikhism, Buddhism, the whole works. And I just looked at, and the one thing I got out of all of it was that all religions are like a tree. And before religion existed, we had the roots. We had the roots of the tree, which just spread all over. You had the symbolism going on and the various different forms of worship. You had symbological, different, yeah. It's gone from my mind. And then religion started coming out. And that first religion, that trunk, was in essence the 10 Commandments. And from those 10 Commandments outgrew, as that tree grew, you have all the different branches coming off. And the major branches started coming off was Christianity and Islam, and then all the other religions. And as you travel along those branches, they break up into smaller branches and smaller twigs. And that's exactly what happened with religion. And it's just spread like that. And I managed to convince my parents that actually I wasn't going to follow any religion. And even up to this date, they find it very, very, very difficult to accept. And I just explained that all I'm going to do is try to live my life as well as I can as a good person, roughly following the 10 Commandments. So I'm not going to go out and hurt anyone unless I'm hurt first. And even then, I'll be reluctant to. And, you know, just what those 10 Commandments, and for me, that just said it all. That is what a good person was. So even to this day, you know, my mum keeps hoping, because my father passed away about 17 years ago. She keeps hoping, she keeps trying, she keeps dropping little hints, you know, but she's finally accepted that she's not going to change me back. And I think she looks at me and goes, actually, you've turned out all right, even though you're not religious.
Mm.
Well, I hope she does.
I think she might have told you by now if you weren't. I think I think your mum could be quite straight talking if she wanted to be.
Oh, can't she just? Yeah. Yeah. She did used to tell me, I think she just got tired that, it was like water off a duck's back. I'd say, yes, mum, and then go off and do whatever I wanted anyway. So,
Yeah. About 20 years ago, you had like a heart problem, right? You were in hospital. I remember visiting you in the John Radcliffe. Was that right? Did that play? I don't know what happened. You can tell me more, but did that play a part in how you moved onwards with the world, or?
It was over 20 years ago.
Jeepers. Now I feel terribly old.
Well, I'm 52 currently, which is old. Well, no, it's bollocks. That's just a number. At the age of 20, now let's get this right. It was 24 or 25. Yeah, that's when you visited me in hospital. 25 years ago almost, I'd had a major heart attack. That's why you visited me. Yeah. And yeah, I survived it somehow. According to the specialist who come and saw me, he goes, the only reason I survived that was because of my fitness level. And yeah, it knocked me back for 6. I went through such a dark period after that because, there was me, what my fitness levels were at that sort of time. I was one of the group of, my body's a temple freak individuals, and I was at that point cycling 30 miles to work and back, running 10 miles as a standard run. And suddenly in hospital, and I couldn't even walk out of the ward. By the time I spent a week and a half in intensive care and then got moved up to the cardiology ward. And, by the time they finally allowed me to get out of bed, I couldn't walk from my bed to the end of the ward without beginning to feel angina or heart pains. And so eventually when I got discharged, got sent home. And yeah, you remember the house, I don't know if you did visit my house, but we had a 3-story house. My bedroom was upstairs and I couldn't climb up the stairs to get to my bedroom every 3 steps, and suddenly my heart would start pounding and, I'd start feeling faint, and I'd just have to sit on the stairs until everything slowed down again, then stand up and take another 3 or 4 steps and get to my bedroom. And yeah, and seeing the specialist who turned around and said, look, you're never going to run again. You're never going to climb another mountain again. If you do, you're going to die. And I walked out of that meeting angry. I remember walking out of that meeting really angry, and I just thought in my mind, who the fuck are you to tell me what I can and can't do? Fuck you. It's pretty much, that is word for word what I felt was going through my mind. And for all your viewers, I apologize for the language, but that's what it was. And I almost had this streak come into me, which just said, you've tried to live your life as healthy as possible. You kept your fitness levels up, and look what happened. And there's no evidence of congenital heart disease in the family at all. This was out of the blue. No one in the family has ever had any heart problems. So at that point, I decided I'm going to go out and do everything. And if I die in the process of doing something I love, so be it. What better way to go out? And that's, pardon me, been my motto ever since.
Did you go around and seal launch your kayak off a lot of bridges around on the River Thames around Oxford at one point in time?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Me too.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Did I ever tell you I was afraid of heights?
Which is, you didn't, but it's ironic considering we've been climbing and thrown ourselves in kayaks off very high bridges. So I have a question now that I have no idea what the answer is, but I reckon that within arm's reach of where you are now, you have a knife.
Yeah, probably.
Probably.
So just leaning over, can you guys still see?
Yep.
Just pull that drawer out. That is full of knives.
Holy smoke. Tilt it more. What? Okay. As you rummage through that drawer, which one is the favorite knife in that drawer?
Oh, that one.
That's a Mora. Is that right?
It's a Mora. Okay. It's my favorite because this is my jungle knife.
Okay.
It's my jungle knife because it's bright coloured. So if I drop it, I'll see the damn thing. Hence the bright orange cord as well. No, actually, it's a Halterforce.
Is it?
And it's the same bloody thing. It's pretty much identical. Yeah. Yeah, that is. Yeah, that is. I'm just looking through what else is in there. Yeah, that is pretty much it. Yeah, it's a good knife. Now, what is it? It's the Halterforce Craftsman knife. They're what? About £12, £10. Phenomenal blade.
For anybody wanting to get into bushcraft and survival-y or other outdoory type stuff, those knives and the Mora equivalent knives are as cheap as chips, and you don't cry when you break them or lose them because it cost you £12. Ah, the Mora one. There you go.
There's a Mora. There's a Halterforce. So, yeah, there you go.
Pretty much
identical. Yeah. Lovely knives. You know, I've used the Mora for years and years, and I still do. You know, when I'm carving wood, that's my first knife I go to rather than my uber expensive bushcraft knife, because these are beautiful knives for £12. You can't go wrong. And if you do break it, you throw it away and get a new one. If you do lose it, you don't cry. Yeah, awesome knives. Yes.
Here we are. I was almost 100% certain that if I asked Manse if he had a knife near him, the answer would be yes at some point in time. I've got a jeepers, a similar box. Oh, I don't know if you can see or not. The camera's not working.
No, it's not.
I've got a similar box anyway. I've actually just got a new Halterforce forest axe that arrived yesterday, sat in there unused.
Ooh, that's just wrong. Irrespective of if it arrived yesterday, you should be straight away. First thing you do when you get a new axe is you sort the edge out. You know, just give it that final polish it needs, get it right, and then you go and chop something straight away. Even if it's one cut, and you don't pick that axe up again for a month. That first day, that's my rule. As soon as you do it, put the edge on, go and chop something.
Well, that will happen tomorrow. I'm filming a video tomorrow on carving spoons to go on the YouTube channel, and the axe will get its first outing when I've stropped the blade and gone and made it properly sharp.
Definitely. Yeah, shaving sharp, the only way. Yeah, I've been spending a bit of time sharpening some of my other knives up. And there's another box full of knives. These are my more expensive knives that I've got. What? You happy talking about knives?
Yeah, let's talk about knives.
All right.
Somebody you know, by the way, on watching us, Gary Hemwood has joined us. You know Gary from Riverside.
Jesus, wow! How is he?
He's good, I believe. He says Mora, great knives, still my go-to favourite. So he's in Whitney, not so far away from you, watching us while I'm in South Africa. Very bizarre. So
that's true. Okay, so what have I got? So I've spent the last 3 days putting an edge on this. This is a adapted M9 bayonet. It's a chunky, beefy knife, 5mm thick, and yeah, I'd never actually put a decent edge on it, and I think I've managed it now.
This is apologies if he draws blood. Oh no, look, that's blimey.
There we go. I don't know if you can see that. That's shaving sharp now, so I'm finally happy with that. And yeah, it's a beast. I never use it. I was just sat here one day, well, about a week ago, and just looking at it going, I've not sharpened you. So I decided to sharpen you. What else have I got in there? I've got a...
What are your go-to tools for sharpening? Do you have some go-to tools that people could, if they were hunting on Amazon, they could go find for themselves? Or
I can. Give me a sec. Okay, this is straight out of my rucksack, which was to prove. There you go. Here's my kit ready. Axe, the whole works in there. And this is straight out of my rucksack, and this is my go-to. This is what I keep in my rucksack. So all it is a wooden batten, and this actually come off, would you believe, my old bunk bed. My mum still had it, and she in the shed, and she goes, "Can you throw it away?" And I looked at these and went, "That's perfect for making a sharpening platform." So what I do is I've got 2 of these, and around it I wrap wet and dry
sandpaper.
and this sandpaper, yeah, wet and dry sandpaper. That's all I use. And so that is 600 grit, because I don't let my knives get really bad, but if they are bad, I've got some coarser grit, and I just tape it so it's wrapped round. So once one side gets smooth, I've got rougher material, but the advantage is I've got different grades already. So as one side wears down, I've got the smoother grades to get the polish on. But that's my primary sander. And then in this is my double-sided leather strop. And again, it's made from exactly the same batten that you saw, but I just shaped it. And I've put on leather both sides. One side I use a polishing compound, and what do I use? Can you see that? Autosol metal polish.
Oh yeah.
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 You can buy that from any sort of car garage because it's used for polishing chrome, etc. That goes on one side, and then on the other side is just smooth leather. So I've got all my grades I want to take it up to polishing grade. How much did this cost me? The most expensive thing is actually the Autosol.
Wasn't it the bunk bed?
Well, the bunk bed was dying anyway, so it was 3. But yeah, any piece of wood, you know. I decided to make some more strops, because I'm teaching people how to sharpen. I just went down to B&Q and bought some oak boards. They're 3 inches wide, and I think they're about 1 inch thick, if not just less. I'm just going to cut them up into little strop sizes, and those are going to be my sharpening. But that kit is worth less than a tenner. And if you don't want to buy Autosol, use toothpaste. It works perfectly.
Toothpaste.
Whitening
Toothpaste.
toothpaste.
I've never heard of anybody using toothpaste before, but I've got to give it a go.
Yeah. And, you know, even if you don't have leather, use a bit of cardboard and put toothpaste on that. And then you can sharpen on that as well. You're taking all these notes down, aren't you?
I am writing. Like, I'm sorry, people, if you're listening to this and I'm not talking, or I don't know, something like that, then I'm sorry, but I'm writing all this down. Because my knife sharpening stuff is more expensive than that, and I thought I had the cheap version, but obviously not.
Now, what I used to sharpen with is the Japanese sharpening stones.
Yes, that's what I was expecting to come out first.
I've had these, wow, years now. I cannot tell you the last time I used these. I really cannot tell you. I used to use them all the time. And then I just realized, actually, the secret to knife sharpening is to keep your knife sharp all the time. And if it starts going a little bit blunt, particularly while you're carving, you'll notice it. The cuts that you're putting in just become that fraction harder. So bring the strop out and strop it straight away. And then I've brought it straight back up to razor. That's all I do with my knife. You know, my main knife is...
And this, ladies and gentlemen, is how we make a mess of even bigger mess in Manse's study in an hour. We just ask him to empty his rucksack over the floor.
There it is. No, my study's becoming even more of a mess than it was.
I'm sorry. And so, do you use the same strategy for your axes as well?
Yeah, totally.
Okay.
Yeah, just stay on top of it. Where's my main knife? There it is. So this is my main knife. It's a custom-made shing. It's 4mm, maybe. Yeah, something like that. My bushcraft fellows call it my crowbar because it is so beefy compared to their knives. But I love it. I hate the slim grips, and it just fits my hand beautifully. But yeah, it's what I use, and I don't know if you can see, but there is on the bevel, it's pretty much a mirror polish. Because, you know, as soon as it starts going down, I just throw it straight back on the strop and bring it back up. I've not put this on my stones. Yeah, as I said, I can't remember. I honestly can't remember last time I used my stones, because I just keep them up at that standard that they need to be at.
And so, other than staying on top of, like, the moment it feels the blade feels a bit dull, those cuts are getting slightly harder, maybe strop it or whatever you might need to do. What other tips do you have for people around sharpening their knives? And the reason I ask this is I've spent a lot of time with people doing bushcraft and survival skills and whatever else in the woods. And people always turn up with the bluntest, often a decent knife that's blunt as buggery. And they say, oh, I don't know how to sharpen it, or I've tried and I've buggered it up. And I don't think it's that complicated, but what are your top tips for them to get that blade razor sharp?
Start slowly and don't expect perfection straight away. Expect to really mess it up initially, because, well, actually the Mora, the flat Scandi bevel, is the perfect knife to learn to sharpen on. And what I would suggest they do is, if anyone wants to learn to sharpen, get yourself a Mora. It's worth it for £10 to learn how to sharpen properly. And then where you've got the bevel, colour it in with a marker pen, like an OHP marker. And then as you strop or as you sharpen, you will see exactly where you are sharpening. So let's do this. I do have a marker pen somewhere, and I'll show you what I mean. This can be a tutorial, isn't it?
I love it. I love it. I love the practical stuff. More practical, the better. I think we talk enough nonsense.
Totally agree with you.
But by the way, I have to say, you mentioned the OHP pen. I like that is showing the 52 years.
Oh, well. All right, if it shows, it shows, doesn't it? All right, so let's get a different Mora that we can see on. Let go with my teaching knives. Even they're sharp, but still. So we've got the bevel along there.
Yep.
So all I'm going to do is just, I'll hold it up so people can see, is just colour the bevel in. Okay.
Gotcha. Yep.
Yep. But clear enough?
Yep.
Okay. So if I had a black pen, I would do it with black, but I don't. Where did I throw my strops? There we go. So when you sharpen, what I teach people is lay the blade flat initially, then tilt it until the bevel stops. So from there, then tilt it. It's only a fraction until the bevel stops there. Okay?
Yep.
And keep pressure on and just rub it down. Lift and then have a look. And you can see where you've been sharpening because the markers come off. And so do the whole length that way and just keep looking back at it. And that way you know that you're sharpening it correctly. And if once that comes off, just mark it again, you know, with the marker pen, and then just go back. Once you've done one side. Now, if you look at Mr. Mears' videos, he turns around and says you must do 20 or 10 one side, rotate and do 20 or 10 the other side. That's a load of bollocks. You really don't need to do that, because at the end of the day, what we're doing is we are putting a micro bevel on. There we go.
Oh, I like it.
So a knife or the Scandi, this is how you where you see how crap a drawing I am.
Oh, that's better. You have to tilt it. There you got it. Yep, yep.
Has this sort of bevel on it, right?
Yep.
It's such a bad drawing, isn't it? Anyway, let's enlarge it. So when we, let's get this angle.
There we go.
Does that work?
Yep, that works.
Okay. So when we sharpen, and this area is here, all we're doing is rubbing or eroding a layer down, and what we get is this little overlap there called a micro bevel. Okay?
Yep.
So if we just work on one side, we create a nice little bevel. And then when we flip the knife and come up this side, all we're doing is taking that micro bevel off. It's a little burr on the edge of the knife. So if I sharpen just one side and very carefully I rub my thumb up the edge of the bevel, I'll feel it catching on my fingerprints, the ridges. It'll catch ever so slightly. It's a micro burr, depending on how coarse the grade of your sandpaper is. And when we flip it, so I've just worked my backside off this way, and there's a micro burr beginning to occur already. Okay. All I need to do is just flip it over a couple of passes, and I just need to take that micro burr off.
Because it's tiny.
It's tiny, and all we're doing is folding metal back and forth. Once that micro burr goes, we are down to a straight edge. And then you just, if we look at the edge of a blade, when we're using a coarse paper, the edge under a microscope is wavy. Yeah? And then as we go finer through the grades, we're making that edge smoother and smoother. And once we've dropped right down to leather, if I look under a microscope, it should be a relatively straight line. There should be no little ridges. That is razor sharpness. And that is what sharpening is all about.
That is the most useful 5-minute masterclass on sharpening knives for no money at all, with a piece of sandpaper and a leather belt, that I have ever seen. That's brilliant.
And, you know, when I go to the woods, I always wear a leather belt for exactly that purpose. If I don't have my strops with me, I just take my belt off. People give you funny looks sometimes. And what the hell are you doing? You undressing in the woods? Just go wrap it around a tree and bang, 100 strops. There's my knife back up to razor sharpness once again. And I just carry on.
That is, okay, that is fantastic. Guys and girls, you don't realize how lucky you are. That is knife sharpening made brilliantly simple and practical. We love it. Thank you, Manse. That's amazing. That's amazing. And you say axes are exactly the same? Get that nice shape to the axe head and then follow the but no, axes change depending upon the type of axe, whether it's a carpentry axe or felling axe.
Exactly, yeah. The bevel on an axe is totally different. So we looked at carving knives, which have a straight edge. A decent axe will have a concave edge, like so. And so to sharpen that is a slightly different technique. So let's see if I can get this. That's the edge there. And as I take it up, I actually move my sandpaper to follow and keep that concave edge, because an axe is a splitting tool predominantly, unless you go down the route of a carving axe.
Yeah, I've got a carpenter's axe that's got a very similar feel to it as a carving knife. Yeah, like that. Yes.
Yeah. So we've got a prominent bevel on one side,
Mm-hmm.
and then pretty much a flat side. And the way they work is that they're designed to slice rather than chop. Slightly different process. But, you know, these, because this is slicing, it has a different bevel on it. But the general axe has a concave edge on it because it's designed to split. And to maintain that edge, we need to keep that concave on there. So each tool is different. It's like you get the different chisels as well. You get straight edge chisels, gouges, etc. They all need to be sharpened in a slightly different way. But what you want to do is follow the edge and try to maintain the edge as much as possible. Don't put a secondary edge on it, or a secondary bevel on it, because you'll just end up ruining what you've got and then spend a lot of time bringing it back.
So the principle is the same. The principle is to basically follow what you were given when it was new.
Correct. Yes. Yeah. Nice and simple. And yeah, the process of following it is always hard because you've got to learn yourself how you're going to follow that. And, you know, with an axe, it's actually a lot easier to sharpen than a knife, because you can't really go too wrong with it, because, you know, the sandpaper is, wherever I've thrown it, is sort of going around, you know, and using the same principle, using the marker pen along the edge, you'll soon know where you're getting the edge and where you're not. The one tip I can give out of everyone is use a marker pen. Color the edge in when you're learning to sharpen, you know, and that way you'll see exactly where you're hitting the edge or where you're not, and then you can adjust your angle of attack, for a better word, to get that wearing away, or that sharpening of the steel.
Wow. That is brilliant. So if you want to go and spend some time in the UK or Scandinavia or wherever with Manse, and you'll have the sharpest shit around.
Yeah, totally.
So we've jumped into the, I suppose, the sexy end of bushcraft and survival, which really is, I often think the sexy end is fire by friction and sharp stuff. Like that's the sexy end. If people are going out and they haven't done much bushcraft or wilderness skills before, where's the best place for them to start, to like the first mini project or the first thing to learn?
Well, that's a pretty simple question. I was expecting something really hard from you just then.
Sorry.
That's all right. Where do you start? Start in your backyard. Get yourself a knife, and it's the one thing I can say is learn how to use this knife safely. The worst thing, often what happens is people get a knife, and, you know, on all my courses, do people know how to, question I ask, do you know how to use a knife? Invariably, every hand goes up. Yeah, I've used a knife. Okay. What have you used a knife for? Chopping the vegetables. Yeah, it's a different league, mate. You know, we're talking of wood and using a knife, not, you know, just in the home chopping a few vegetables on a nice, safe chopping board. So the one tip I can say is, if get yourself a knife, don't spend a lot of money, and learn how to use it safely. Remember, there are two golden things that I teach everyone. Think of the danger triangle and the blood bubble. Okay, blood bubble is wherever that knife can reach around you, particularly when you're cutting and you're putting force into it. If there's someone stood to your right-hand side, if you're right-handed, and you put a force in and that knife shoots across, you're going to cut them. Okay, so blood bubble. And danger triangle is the triangle where your legs come together. Okay, put your bendy bits to your bendy bits and cut in front of you, and then go for it. And just don't cut towards yourself until you're a bit more, no, let me rephrase that. Don't cut towards yourself until you're a lot more competent. Okay, and there's a way to cut towards yourself to be safe. Always cut away and go enjoy yourself, and just do the basics. Just whittle away and enjoy the whole process of it, which is, you know, really relaxing. It's almost a form of meditation. And then once you've done that, go light some fires again in your backyard. Learn how to light a fire. Go learn all the different types of wood. It's not a simple case of getting a can of petrol and throwing it over, you know, and throw a match at it and go, woof, I've got a fire. You know, really start understanding it. And I suppose if we're going to sum up bushcraft, it's understanding your environment around you. Once you understand it, you'll realize that every single item of wood out there, every material out there is unique and it has its own character. And once you understand that character and you understand the way it behaves, you'll start understanding what nature is all about, and then you'll become a lot more competent and relaxed, and you'll be able to enjoy it more without fighting nature all the time.
People often ask me, what's the difference between survival and bushcraft? And I'm like, well, survival is what happens in the first 20 to 30 minutes when it's all gone upside down and gone wrong. And bushcraft is how you move from survive to thrive. That's the thing. And you're right, it is the learning of bushcraft. It's not something that you can force to be incredibly quick. It is a methodical, patient, hypnotic almost. I can remember it being in Scandinavia, middle of summer, like middle of June, and suddenly you realize it's 4 o'clock in the morning and you're still whittling whatever it was that you started at 8 p.m. and your hands are blistered and cramping, and you've just got in that zone and you're just, away you go.
Yeah, it is exactly that. It's just you. It's you and that piece of wood and your imagination running wild to create something of beauty that you see within it. And often you'll see people, particularly who go into spoon carving, they'll hold this piece of wood up and they'll just move it all around and take so much time looking at it, trying to figure out what the wood is saying to you. You know, what does it want to become rather than what you want it to become? And once you understand that relationship, then and then it's just that slow, methodical process of bringing out what you saw within it.
It's incredible. I've been playing with fire by friction here in South Africa, and everything's the same but remarkably different. So like if you go into the African bush, you don't find any of the trees that we're used to in the Northern Hemisphere, like none. And so I've been, as opposed to learning all the trees from a book and taking a little pocket guide with me, I've been going back to first principles of, so fire by friction, right? I need to find some decent dry hardwood. Whereabouts in this environment are you going to find decent dry hardwood that you can use for fire by friction? But equally, if you want to carve, whereabouts are you going to find that? So is there a South African version of, let's say, silver birch, for instance, which you often find by the river, don't you, or by a lake? And it's really interesting when you don't overcomplicate it and you go back to some pretty basic principles, you actually can glue 2 and 2 together quite quickly for yourself and start having some real fun and some success.
Yes, yeah. The principles remain the same no matter where you go in the world. You know, if you can stick to those basic principles, you'll thrive. It's just remembering what they are rather than being overwhelmed with this new environment that you've suddenly gone to, not knowing anything about it. But just remember the basics. And the basics are the foundation. It's like the foundation of a house. Once those basics are there and you remember what they are all the time, you can build anything on top of that.
Because what I like about what you've done, when I take people through fire by friction, when I was taught fire by friction, it was like 3 weeks. It was the most painful, laborious process. And my attitude is, listen, you need 2 hard bits of wood that you're going to rub very profusely against each other to produce something that gets black and smoky. That's if you go back to first principles, like the absolute basics, that's actually what you're doing, is your friction, rubbing 2 bits of wood, creating something black and charcoaly. And yes, you can get much more sophisticated than that. But if you remember that as the basic, you'll be able to go and think about fire by friction in like 1,800 different ways, because everything is always slightly different. So I think you can make this stuff as complicated or as hard as you want to for yourself.
Yeah, just remember the KISS analogy. You know, keep it simple, stupid. You keep it simple, you'll get there. Don't overcomplicate it.
So you've travelled all over the world, adventurizing. I like that word, adventurizing. It's a new word, adventurizing. What's your adventurizing? That's it. Steal it. It's all shareware. adventurizing. What's your what's the destination? If I said, Manse, you've got unlimited money, you can go to any place you've been to before, and it's just you. You get to go and enjoy the outdoors, just you. Maybe the dog. What's that one place you're like, if I was allowed to, Rob, I'd be booking a flight this very second?
Oh, Christ. I'm split between two. The first one that jumped straight to my mind was the Arctic Circle. Oh my God. It's like we were discussing earlier. It cleanses the soul. The Arctic in winter cleanses the soul. The beauty of it, the quietness, the stillness, the cleanness of it. You know, when everything is covered with this beautiful blanket of fresh snow, you've got sunlight coming in, and it's just, you can see the snow crystals just twinkling in the sunlight as you move, and then you're listening and all sound is deadened because of the snow, yet there's such beauty about it. That is right up there for me. And then the second one was diving in a nature reserve, a marine reserve, down by Malaysia. It's a beautiful island called Sipadan, and it's Malaysia's marine reserve, forgive me. And they only issue 100 diving permits per day. And this place is vast. The way to describe it is, have you ever seen these David Attenborough or Jacques Cousteau documentaries where they go diving and it's like an aquarium, you know, with shoals and shoals of fish all around you and visibility for however long, and everywhere you look it's just beauty. That is Sipadan, you know, where the turtles come up to you, and I kid you not, turtles come up to you to get their photo taken.
Smile, please.
Yeah, pretty much. You know, they are just beyond arm's reach, you know, and they will come up to you. I think they catch the glint of sunlight off the front of the camera or the waterproof housing. They just come up to you and they just float there looking at you, go, take a photo, take a photo. It's just beautiful. Yeah. So they're the two for me.
They're the two. So there you go. You've got £10,000. Go book your flights. Off you go. What's on the bucket list, though? The place you haven't been to yet, but you're like, it's an itch you have to scratch one day.
Antarctica. I want Antarctica. I have a dream. So if there's any rich benefactor out there who wants to sponsor me, please do. You know, get in touch with Rob. He'll pass you your contact details. But I want to do Antarctica solo and unsupported.
Oh,
that is my itch.
That's your itch.
Not just that is my itch. Yeah, one day I'll reach it. I just can't quite reach it at the moment, but yeah, I want to do that.
It's the only continent I haven't led an expedition on, Antarctica.
Well, there you go. You can take me out there and leave me and come and pick me up later.
Yeah, well, I actually had Justine, I can't pronounce her surname, Kuavaden. Oh, I can't remember. Justine, Cackle TV. She did a sea kayaking trip that she guided in Antarctica 2 or 3 years ago, and they sailed out of Chile to Antarctica. Her and all of her 8 clients on a sailing boat, with all the sea kayaks on the deck, and then they got there and went sea kayaking, and the sailing boat was their base camp. And then after 2 weeks kayaking in Antarctica, they turned around and sailed back to Chile again.
Wow, that's amazing.
And this sailing boat was I think it was an aluminium boat, twin mast, 2 wood burning stoves or coal burning stoves in the boat itself. It was like a proper expert. It would have to be for a journey like that. I mean, that's some of the most dangerous seas known to mankind.
Totally, just ask Shackleton.
Yeah.
He knows how dangerous they are. Just read his books, and yeah, he's an individual who really put across what the ocean did to him out there, or what experiences they had. And yeah, it's quite a dangerous place. That's the one one area of this planet I have a very healthy respect for is the ocean. She scares me. I am fine underwater, you know, no problems. On the surface, bobbing around like a cork, I do not like that. No way, thank you very much. I'll leave that to other people who are more stupid than me.
Yeah, like me. So you mentioned Shackleton, though. Who's your go-to? Like, I often think that we're in today's society, we're losing contact with all of the valuable learnings of the past, and I think, you know, the previous generations are the people who got us to where we are today, and yet, like, nobody knows how to really garden anymore. Nobody knows how to, like, preserve and can vegetables, or even, like, dare I say it, harvest their own meat. There's a topic, a taboo topic we could go on about for maybe we will do in a minute. But who's history wise? Who's the person other than Shackleton who you look to for, I don't know, advice, guidance, knowledge, expertise?
There is no one person there, because I've not come across one person who covers everything where my interests lie. You know, from homesteading, gardening, all the way to expeditions and self-development. Shackleton obviously is right there because he put across real courage and just a phenomenal attitude of succeeding or attempting success. You know, and the mindset that he had was just amazing. And if you look back at the equipment that he had and what he had to do when his ship got stuck, and, you know, when he went across the oceans in the rowing boat, it's mind-blowing. I can't contemplate it, you know, and you just read his books and go, man, you're on a different pedestal to me. You know, you're on a pedestal I aspire to climb, but will I ever achieve it? I don't know. And would I want to be stuck in the South Seas on a rowing boat with so many other people being thrown around? Like hell, no. I'll leave it to other fools. But, you know, just what he achieved was phenomenal. No, I look at everyone. I just have this thing, as we touched on earlier, about my outlook on life to just learn as much as possible, which is what bushcraft was for me, you know, and then the wilderness. And now, you know, I've transgressed from bushcraft, for a better word. I'm now into the Stone Age. That is my forte. I love the Stone Age because I looked at bushcraft and thought, metal tools, what if I lose my knife? What am I going to do then? So I moved backwards in time, or forwards in capability, for a better word. So yeah, I now look at myself as a Stone Age practitioner, or learning more about the Stone Age. So, you know, I just have this thing in my mind. If someone just stripped me naked and dropped me in the middle of nowhere, how would I survive? Could I survive? And I'd like to think I can now. So yeah, going back to your question, there is no one person, because I have an allotment. I don't know the first thing about gardening apart from the torture my mum put me through on weeding her garden. You know, I hate weeding, but I now have an allotment in the countryside, the biggest weed attractant ever, you know. I turn over a bit of ground, come back a week later, and there's weeds there again. It's like, how the hell? So there's people, you know, like Roy next door in this perfect allotment. There's ours, which is a jungle, overgrown with bracken. And I always used to look across at his perfect allotment. And I kid you not, it's perfect. Mown grass all between, everything set out in perfect rows. And I looked at it. I went, how the hell? And I know his allotment started off like mine with this jungle of brambles, you know, and I thought, how the hell did you manage that? And I've been working on this now for 5 years and I've still only got a third of the way through and I've still not had a full season of growing. So I look at him for advice, and everywhere, you know, there's advice everywhere. What the real skill in us is being open-minded enough to be able to approach people and go, I don't know what you're doing. Please explain it to me. Teach me. And as soon as we take that mentality that, we're just here to learn, and we approach it with an open mind and go, teach me, and have humble pie, irrespective of the skill sets that you already have, you'll learn so much more. People call me an expert in bushcraft and even going into the Stone Age now. And yes, I've lectured at Oxford University here and passed information across to PhD students. I don't classify myself as a student, an expert, because I still know I don't know how much more I've got to learn, because it's still such a vast topic, as is life.
Yeah, I think the hard thing is you get to the point where the piece of learning you're looking for is so small that you can't identify it, and you almost learn it by accident. Like I've been doing buggering around with this stuff for a long time. The idea of a marker pen on the blade, never heard of that before. Stolen it. Like, I think that's like, but that's it. It's a 0.5%. Do you know what I mean? It's not the macro of how to sharpen a knife, but that's a massive thing to help somebody really understand it and visualize it for themselves as well. I think it's brilliant.
Yes. Yeah. We always learn. Every day is the learning day, at the end of the day. Day. Yeah. My motto in life is every day I've learned something new, irrespective of how tiny it is. It's a day not wasted.
Awesome. So I've been playing with something recently where you'll have heard of the idea of a waterman. They were the guys in Hawaii. Remember the watermen were the guys who could jump in a sailing boat on a surfboard. They were often turned into the beach lifeguards. They could, there's stories of Hawaiian watermen being able to survive under the water 30 waves, which
wow.
When you end up with wave sets being 25 seconds apart, that's a lot of waves through different breathing techniques. And so I've been playing with this idea of what an outdoorsman is. Now, I can't come up with a better, more PC word, because I think there should be outdoors people, but outdoorsman seems to fit with waterman.
Mm-hmm.
What do you? And so the watermen were the ultimate skillful masters of those big waves in Hawaii. What do you think an outdoorsman is? What are the attributes of somebody who we could describe as an outdoorsman?
That's an interesting question. I thought you said there'd be no difficult questions on this.
Sorry.
What is an outdoorsman? I think, putting it simply, an outdoorsman is someone who's in tune with his environment. Mm-hmm. There you go. How concise is that?
That's amazing. Well, and then has that skill set and physicality and everything else to manage themselves and maybe other people within it?
I would say it's more about managing yourself, because if you're in tune with your environment, you understand what's going on. Mm-hmm. And to understand what's going on, you've got to have that knowledge set anyway. And if you're in tune with the environment, woodland, mountain, ocean, whatever it is, you have to have a real in-depth understanding on everything, the whole aspect, not only of the environment, but of your place within it and how you are a part of it. So the waterman example you gave, those guys have become tuned in to how to develop themselves to be able to be underwater for that duration of time. That is them in tune with their environment. A woodsman who can just disappear off into the woods just with basic tools and just live out there. Why is he able to do that? He has the skill set, he has the knowledge set of not only of himself, but also the environment around him, be it the blade of grass or the weeds he's walking over to the humongous trees which are around him. It's only when you have a full understanding of yourself, your place within your environment, and your environment, are you an outdoorsman.
Nice. I like that in tune piece. It's something that I often teach when I've trained a lot of leaders and guides in the outdoors, in all different aspects of the outdoors. And that in tune thing is the hardest thing to facilitate somebody's learning about, because often they see it as a waste of time. You know, it's nice to have a cup of tea sat by the edge of a lake with a forest beside you and watch the birds and the bees go by and listen to the sounds. But actually, to get truly in tune, you have to feel the wind, observe the clouds, look at the cloud structures, track them as they pass over a period of time. Like, is it consistent or is it different? What does different mean? So on and so forth. And it's almost too complicated to teach, yet remarkably simple at the same time.
Yeah. The hard thing about it is, because I try to do obviously the same thing with my client groups that I get, is trying to make them understand and realize that they don't know what they don't know. And once you can get over that hurdle, and it's a huge hurdle, you need a refill.
I do. I'm out.
Yeah. Once you can get them over that refill, oh my God, get them over that hurdle, it's only then that you open their eyes to a understanding of what the potential is out there. No, you only open their eyes to a tiny glimmer, because we can't show them what is out there. We can show them the path and send them in a direction, but after that, it's up to them. There's a beautiful Persian poet whose stuff I read, Khalil Gibran, and he has a section in there on children. And in essence, as outdoor educators, what we are the parents, and the client groups that come to us are our children. And what is the parent's aim is to give a direction to the children. And in there, he basically turns around. Khalil Gibran says, your children are not your children. Your children are the arrow in your bow. You point it in a direction and let loose, and then it is up to the arrow in the direction that it goes. And in essence, that is what we are as outdoor educators. We point them in a direction, and then it's up to them to go in whatever direction they want. They can drop down right in front of you, which is often what happens, because in a modern society, it's very difficult for people to comprehend what we're trying to give them or even show them, because it goes against everything that our society has plugged into them, you know, and brainwashed them about. You know, modern society is all about material goods. It's about achieving to get more material goods, to be more in debt, better than the Joneses. It's not about giving everything up and living a simple life, because once you get more in tune with the environment, you realize you actually don't need all that shit. You actually need less than what you've been led to believe. And that goes against social conditioning all the way across. And when you're going against social conditioning, it's a battle.
Maybe it's the biggest battle we need to fight today. Maybe it's it's the one. It's the coronavirus, Black Lives Matter, the everything. Maybe everything is summarized quite easily by that.
Agreed. It's all coming out. You know, this coronavirus has been such a wake-up call to the masses, particularly with society shutting down overnight, you know, and people being laid off, and then suddenly realizing that actually they don't need all that stuff. How people kept themselves sane? By going back to the basics, going out for simple walks outdoors, and realizing that suddenly, you know, they don't need to spend so much time at work. You know, you can work from home. And I think that's going to be the biggest thing for modern society. Is it a conspiracy theory? I don't know. But the powers that be, or the big, powerful people who own most of the industry, controlling the masses by getting them in and saying, right, you're here, and then go home. You know, it's almost controlled, and then you get these lovely 2 days off where you're supposed to appreciate your life. And I think the whole coronavirus has, just opened people's eyes and made them realize, actually, I don't need to be stuck in traffic for an hour or two, commuting to work and spending 8 hours there or 9 hours and then spending another 2 hours. Then what have I got afterwards? I've got 4 hours or 5 hours at home that I need to cook and look after the kids and off to bed. Then I've got to get up and repeat my whole life again. It's been a big wake-up call. Let's see what happens.
It's interesting. I've been having conversations with two very different groups of people through my work over the past several months. And I've ended up with two very distinct groups. One is the group I'll call the ostriches. They're like heads in the sand and when can we go back to normal? Fast food, buying shiny shit, so on and so forth. When's that? And then there's another very distinct group of people who are, they're not deers in headlamps, but they kind of are, because they've just been awakened to I call it like a series of lies that they've been fed their entire life. Like, people don't talk about saving money these days. People look at me funny, Manse, because I have 6 months worth of bills in a savings account. And so I can not work for 6 months and the world it's all good. It's fine. And yet so many people are have negative 6 months in unsecured debt because everybody gives them a credit card and says you can have this on finance. And the world is marvelous until then you get made redundant or furloughed or you don't get paid during coronavirus. And then you don't know how to cook because you've bought freeze-dried meals or not, meals that go ping in a microwave. You don't know how to cook. You don't know how to garden. You don't know how to do anything. And you have no money. And suddenly it's kind of identified. There's a lot of people who believe they're very resourceful and very capable and very on it. And actually coronavirus has identified just how much fakery there is around that.
Yeah, totally agree with you. It's exactly that. Classic example is my partner's sister who lives over in Northern Ireland. When coronavirus started kicking off, they said, look, if it gets really bad, we're coming over and staying with you because you know how to live off the land. You'll be fine. If food runs out, you'll just bugger off and go get food. Oh, you're not coming here. Oh, you can get lost. This is my place, it's exactly that. It's, you touched on it earlier about people not even being able to butcher their own meat, So many people are conditioned to go to a supermarket and get this unidentifiable lump of protein, which they call meat, and take it home. I have this theory, take people back 100 years when we used to go to the market, not even 100 years, 40 years ago, 30 years ago, well, 50, 20, 40 years ago, my father used to go down to Abingdon where there was a farmer's market and go there and buy half a dozen chicken in the cardboard box, took them home and slaughtered them at home, and got me to help him slaughter them, gut them, prepare them, give them to mum, who then would cook them or put them in the freezer. And that was part of my upbringing. And I bet if we turned around and just went back to that stage and went, right, people, here's your meat. It's alive and kicking and clucking. Off you go. My theory is that 95, 98% of people overnight would become vegetarians.
Oh, easily, yeah.
They'd shit themselves. They wouldn't know what to do. They'd look at this thing, hold it arm's reach, going, oh my God, it's talking to me. What do I do? Someone look after it. I saw it in the military as well, where we were given chickens and, these hard and tufty Royal Marines were given this live chicken, go, here you go, dispatch it. And so a lot of them were looking around going, holy shit, what do I do with this? Despite being shown how to dispatch that chicken by the corporals there. And, even then it's like, oh my God, and holding it arm's reach as if it's going to turn around and garrot them. But it's people have lost that skill set. It's like you said, it's the convenient society they've been led to believe, or the way the societies have become, that people are so busy with their life, they can't even cook their own food now. It has to be all prepared with all that crap out there, and they're made to believe this is perfect. What really gets me, is that shitty fast food is cheaper than fresh food. What sort of society are we living in where that is the case? Artificial manufactured food is cheaper to produce and sell than growing fresh vegetables. how fucked are we?
No, it's fine. It's fine. I actually agree. You know, when McDonald's is cheaper than broccoli, there's a problem in the world.
Yeah, exactly. You know, and that's why we have a problem in society at the moment, particularly in Western societies or first world nations, is fast food is like that. And, you know, there's so much money being plowed into advertising and the whole works, everything linked to it. And that the masses are being brainwashed into going, yeah, this is what a modern society does. Everything's done for you. You're supposed to take it easy. And you're just being fed chemicals and crap. And no wonder we've got obesity kicking off in children as well, and diabetes going through the roof. Third world will inherit this world because we'll have killed everyone off in the first world.
Well, it's very interesting you talk about the third world, because obviously I'm here in South Africa at this point in time, and you can't go, you jeepers, like, it feels like if I threw a stone from where I am now, I could hit a McDonald's, a Burger King, a KFC, and a fish and chip shop. Quite, like, maybe not. I'd have to throw a long way, but I'd have to throw like 500 meters. And it's interesting that in the third world, what's happened or happening is that people have gone from having a very, very basic subsistence to McDonald's, and there's been no middle ground.
Yeah.
So
because they're aspiring to be like the modern world. You know, they're aspiring to be like first world countries. We want to evolve. We want to get to that stage really, really quickly. And that's what it is. And then you have these big multi-billion-dollar corporations going in and going, ha, suckers, we can get them because of your aspiration. Yeah. It's, you know, I remember when I was young about Nestle and the, I'm probably going to get sued after this, but Nestle and the, was it baby formula? Where they
in Africa.
Yes, remember that one?
Yep.
Yeah, they convinced mothers to say their formula was better than their own breast milk. And then they provided it really cheap and at a point later in time, they just upped the prices and suddenly babies were dying due to malnutrition. That's a classic example. You know, it's just, what sort of world do we live in when, you know, big corporations can get away with that? And then worse, we have lawyers who back them up because they're getting a nice little package or monetary sum out of it, you know, and it's a messed up world. Yeah, maybe the pandemic will open some eyes. Maybe the pandemic, God forbid, and I'm not a God-fearing person or even believe in God, maybe the pandemic needs to be a lot worse to have a real restart and a rethink. That's a horrible way of thinking it, but, you know.
I'm not somebody who spends much time thinking about conspiracy theories. I'm not like I'd call myself a prepper, but not on the basis of like conspiracy theories, just on the basis of, I don't know, the electricity could go out for 6 days, then what are you going to do? That sort of level. People were having meltdowns about food and whatever else during lockdown and panic buying, and I'm like, well, I don't know what your problem is. My freezer's full, but both my larders are full. I'm good. But if you were a conspiracy theorist, you'd say that those large corporations like your Nestle's, your McDonald's, whatever else, that they actually have leveraged themselves complete control on 95% of society, of the world.
Yeah, it could be argued, couldn't it? Look at Amazon. Look how powerful that has suddenly become. Look at Facebook, who's now turning around and saying he can almost dictate what government gets into America. You know, look at the Cambridge Analytics in the UK, who was selling off the data from Facebook and influencing elections. Yeah, if you're a conspiracy theorist, there's plenty of evidence out there to support your conspiracies.
Yeah, you don't have to. And the thing is, you don't have to look that hard or try that hard to go and find it.
No, you don't. And at the end of the day, my firm belief is that this, for a better word, capitalist society, it will crash. It just can't maintain this growth level that is going on because we're just having such a massive impact on our planet, you know, that there is going to come a point where Mother Earth will turn around and say, enough. You know, maybe that's what this pandemic is just a little inkling going, watch out, you know. And we've got evidence of global warming going on, you know. Was it Siberia reached 100 degrees Fahrenheit, and we've got wildfires in Siberia currently because of global warming. It's
and toxic germs coming out through with the is it the thermofrost is defrosted for the first time in 2,000 years or something like that?
Yeah, they're worried about Spanish flu coming out because there's no cure for it, and that went round and killed millions of people in 1911, like that.
18 to 1920, just after the First World War.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, they're worried about that coming out because that's been sealed away in the permafrost, and a lot of graves were buried, or people were buried in the permafrost. So suddenly they're going to come out, and that's going to spread, and that's a real killer. We know that's a real killer. So
I interviewed on the podcast here. I interviewed a marine biologist called Lauren Arthur about 2 weeks ago, and she spent 8 or 9 years working in the. I've got to get this right. I think it was the Maldives. Lauren, if I get it wrong, I apologize, but I think it was the Maldives. And she identified a summer where all the coral in the Maldives got bleached, and there is. She was saying there is no known cure to bring bleached coral back to life. When it's bleached, it is just dead. Yes, you can grow coral and then you can go and re-sow it. But she's like, the Maldives used to make a vast fortune out of scuba divers going there on holidays, snorkeling, whatever else. And now, you know, the coral's gone. Well, it's still there, but it's bleached. But of course, all the marine life that was around the corals has all gone elsewhere as well. And there's no known way of resuscitating the damn stuff.
Oh, well, we can't bring the dead back to life. No, we can't do that. It's dead. It's dead. It's dead. Unless we go create a time machine and go back or go forward or somehow fix it, with our current technology, not a chance. It's gone. You know, and that's what people don't realize. Or that's one of my big bugbears. Particularly trying to teach people about the environment, is making them understand that once it's gone, it's gone. We're not gods, nor do we have that ability scientifically to recreate life at the moment, irrespective of what the aspirations are. You know, there's this misconception amongst people that science will step in or save the human race with the mess that we've created. I'm sorry, people, but no, that technology doesn't exist. It's not likely to exist for a long time. Hey, we can't even produce clean power sufficiently or efficiently at the moment. How are we going to create life and re-sow it?
But it comes back down to some form of people taking some individual responsibility and individual useful action. And by useful action, I listened to Elon Musk about a month ago, and he said something, and I can't remember the exact numbers, so I'll just pluck them out. But let's just say it was something like, if everybody who owns a car drives 5 miles a month less, we stop fracking in the world within 3 weeks. And it's 5 miles a month is nothing. That's like 1.5 miles a week less, or whatever it works out as, 1.33 miles a week less. I mean, it's no distance at all. And if we all do it, we stop fracking, and then we've saved the Arctic.
It's amazing, isn't it? Just look back at what happened with the pandemic when we had the lockdown. You know, what was the fact I read the other day? You could see Everest from K2 for the first time in 50 years or 60 years. Just because it's clear. I look up, you know, laying in the garden with the warm weather we've had, there are no contrails up there in the sky. It's beautiful. You know, and driving around, no fumes, next to no traffic. And suddenly wildlife is coming back into the centre of towns. You know, there were swans going through the centre of Oxford just the other day and had to be guided back to the river. And there's loads of evidence of that happening all around, where nature, given a chance, will come back. And yeah, we just need to make those small changes, like you or Elon Musk said, you know, that if we start making a small change, if we all just went out and said we're going to make a tiny change, particularly if we think about pollutants, from cars, etc. Yeah, if we make a small change, it's going to be better for us. It'll make us fitter. It'll make us stronger. It'll connect us more to our environment rather than being locked away in this metal box where we're just breathing our own air in, listening to music and not aware of anything that's going on apart from what's in front of us. It'll connect us with our land. It'll connect us with ourselves, and you'll suddenly notice so much more. I've had people come up to me and go, when they've been walking through town and they're suddenly seeing different things. And there's people I know and people who do come into the wilderness with me, and they're just spending more time outdoors and they're noticing so much more. If we can just make that change, there may just still be hope for us. But we all need to make it. We all need to get past this idea of that we must go out and earn money and stop being selfish and self-centered, in essence, and think about the bigger picture.
It doesn't have to be a massive sacrifice either. I think it just takes a few people who go and show that the world is still an amazing place and you're still very happy and very successful, even without a cardboard Starbucks cup and you use a China one.
Yes, exactly. Stop being lazy, just be a bit more considerate and make a little bit of a change. And the satisfaction of drinking out of your own mug rather than a plastic mug can't be beaten. And it looks cool. People will look at you, because I do it all the time now. I'll take my mug with me and ask them to fill it, and people look at you and go, where the fuck did you get that mug from? What? Why are you so special? Why do you get that and I've got this crappy paper one? But yeah, you just sit there and gloat in your own little ways. Little do they know, but yeah, we're all capable of it.
We are. So what's next for you in the outdoors? What's on the list for the next few months, rest of 2020?
There's a big project coming up and I can't say what it is. Maybe in a year's time we redo this interview. Well, if I'm successful in what I'm doing or what I'm achieving or trying to, then I'll be able to tell you. But at the moment, I can't tell you. But it's something big.
Damn it. In a year's time, I will just be coming out of the bush in Yukon territories, having spent a month in Yukon territories in a year's time. So we'll have to reconvene.
Okay. Yeah. I'm keeping my mouth shut. I have signed a massive, very, very tight non-disclosure agreement, which I cannot break, but it's huge. Sorry, Rob.
Damn it. Okay, no worries. We'll let that slip. Listen, Manse, I've taken enough of your time this evening. I just want to know if people want to get in touch with you, come hang out with you, do some Stone Age stuff or some bushcraft, where do they find you? Where's best to get in touch with Manse to come and hang out with you?
Oh, only the special people can get in touch with me. And there's a massive vetting process. Yeah, I run a business called Wilderness Pioneers. There you go.
Oh, there's a mug.
Yeah, there's my mug. There's my logo as well.
Cool.
So there are 4 elements in that logo. All 4 elements.
I can see water, fire, a tree branch.
Leaf there.
Yep.
Yeah, so you got fire, the whole thing.
Yep.
Water, and just up here is wind as well. And then earth with the leaf. So yeah, that's what I do. So yeah, if you want to come out, give me a shout. You can find me on the interweb. I'm all there. Either put my name in or just put in the company name, and you'll find me.
Perfect.
At the moment, we're taking a lovely big break. Thank you for the pandemic, and it's actually rather nice. Everything is on pause at the moment until we find out what's happening, because although some schools have started opening up and running small courses, I'm really worried about a second wave coming in, and that's why I haven't started my courses yet. Particularly the way things have gone in the UK, I'm particularly worried. So we're just holding off at the moment.
Well, being a business owner who's been through the coronavirus just like you, that's a very, very adult yet very hard decision to make.
Yeah.
because the head says one thing and the bank account says another thing.
Yeah. Like you, I worked on the basis of always keeping savings for a few months. I had 4 months worth of savings in there. But yeah, bank account, you look at it and the numbers keep going down and the head is saying, you need to be safe. You need to be safe. We'll see what happens. I may start doing one-to-one courses with a 10-meter difference. But who knows?
Well, that's the blood bubble taken care of.
Exactly. You go to that side of the woodland and I'll stay here and we'll communicate via video. I don't know.
Video call or something like that.
Exactly. Yeah. I've been checking out my woods for decent Wi-Fi signal as well. So I've got certain hotspots where we've got 4G. So maybe we'll work something out along those sort of lines.
Jeepers. Wow, cool. Manse, I just want to say thank you for everything that you do. I don't think you know just how many countless young people who've probably sworn at you while they've been with you, but in 10 or 15 years later are dearly talking about that guy and what it is they did, possibly sharing it with their kids. And we both recognize that working with those client groups, those younger client groups of those disenfranchised young people, like you're never going to change 100% of their life, but if you can change 5%, you've done an incredible job. And I think you've changed a lot more than that. So thank you for everything you've put in, and thank you for your time this evening. And yeah, folks, if you want to go hang out with Manse, book a flight to the UK when they arrive. And if you're already in the UK, find him and go and spend some time, sharpening your knives to start with, I reckon.
Yeah, learn the basics and we'll build on that.
Yeah, and Manse, when it's available, you need to come to Africa and come hang out here.
Oh man, I'd love to. There's a whole new territory which I've not explored. Actually, one of my bucket lists is to dive with great whites. And the best place is South Africa, from what I hear.
Yep, Cape Town.
Yep.
Cape Town.
One day.
It's a whole different world here when you disappear off into the bush and you hear a noise at night. It could easily be, very unlikely a lion, but it could easily be a leopard. And frankly, they're more scary than lions because lions are very unsubtle, whereas leopards are like stealthy things. Oh,
like cougars.
Yeah, they are like a cougar. They are, and leopards are ginormous as well. They are huge,
right?
And they are very, very sneaky. Whenever I'm out in the bush and I see a leopard spoor, I'm always like, oh crap, why me today?
That's life, though, isn't it? It keeps us on edge and makes us appreciate what we have.
That's it. Well, if there's a group of us, we'll often have a fire and somebody will we'll do like an hour. You do an hour throughout the night as a stag just to go and sit there with the light spotting eyes to try and not get eaten.
Totally. Yeah, I understand that one.
Cool. Let me love you and leave you. Thank you for your time, sir, and stay incredible.
Yeah, you too, my friends. Look after yourself and speak soon.
Thank you.